أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So we're going to continue inshallah with the hadith do not become angry, hadith number 16. So I'd like you to help me recap before we continue. Inshallah we'll hope to finish the hadith today. So there's only a few people, so let's try and, if you like, you can unmute your mic and just speak out, inshallah. So who's the narrator of the hadith? You can either write down your response or you can unmute your mic and say it out. Anyone? What's the name of the narrator of the hadith?
Abu Huraira.
Yes, very good, Abu Huraira. Can you tell me why did we say that the Prophet ﷺ, why did we say that the no, 1 second, actually, let me just so one of the key things we said about anger is we said that it is the root of all evil and it brings all the evil together, and to avoid anger brings you all the good. So that was something general that we said about anger. We said there were 3 possible interpretations of, when the Prophet ﷺ said, do not become angry. Can anyone tell me what they are? Even if you can just tell me, one each. What did the Prophet ﷺ mean when he said, do not get angry? I went through 3 main points.
As a prevention to stop following me.
Yes, very good. So the first thing was prevention. So, we said that that maybe the Prophet ﷺ meant that adopt qualities, of like gentleness, calmness, humbleness, modesty, forbearing, patience. If you have these kind of characteristics, it helps you to not even get into the state where you start getting angry. So it just keeps you calm. So that's the first view, that maybe when the Prophet ﷺ said do not get angry, he means that try and adopt these characteristics so that you don't have this kind of thing in your personality or in your in you to get angry and to get heated up. What's the second view? Anyone?
You shouldn't act.
Yes, very good. Excellent. So if you are angry, you don't act in the state of anger. So you don't speak or act while you are angry. So that was the second point. And the third one? The third view?
I think it was don't get angry at all.
Yes, that's right. Very good. The third view is that don't get angry at all. So when they are saying that when the Prophet ﷺ said do not get angry, he meant don't get angry at all. It just means that the person is about to get angry now, and he just swallows it. He just swallows his anger. So he does, he's like getting into the state of anger, but he just nips it right there and he doesn't get angry. So these are the 3 possible interpretations they said of when the Prophet ﷺ said do not get angry. What did he mean? That perhaps he meant one of these 3. Can anyone tell me the 5 characteristics of the muttaqin, please? Remember we recited a verse from the Quran and we got the characteristics of the muttaqeen from that. Anyone? So they give in the time of adversity, they give in the time of prosperity, they give, they control their anger, they forgive people, and they strive for excellence. So these are the 5 characteristics of the muttaqun that we discussed. Can you tell me any 5 things that you should do to at the time that you are angry? So while you are in a state of anger, what can you tell me any 5 things that you should do that the Prophet ﷺ instructed us to do if we're angry? You can give me 1 or 2 each of you if you can't, if one of you can't list all of them. You can type it if you don't want to speak it. Yes, okay, very good. Make wudu. What's the first basic thing that you do when you're angry? Very good, yes. Say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. Okay, someone said change position. Very good. 3. That's 3 points. Anybody else? So, say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. Make wudu. Change your position. There was a very important point. Okay, so sit down, lie down is the same thing as change your position. Drink water. So we said that with the water you can do these 2 things, right? You can either drink it or you can make wudu with it. So there's one important point that I'm trying to get you guys to remember that you should act on when you are in a state of anger. Anybody?
Leave the situation and finish
so that's sort of included in making wudu. So when you're going to go and make wudu, you're going to have to leave that place and come out of there, which is, yes, you should leave the place. Yes, very good. Stay silent. That is a very, very important point that I need you to remember and implement, because I think some of the major damage that happens in a state of anger is done by the tongue, more than anything else sometimes. So in a state of anger you will say things which you would never you wouldn't fathom saying in another situation. So staying silent is very important when you're angry. Okay, so that was basically more or less, I think, what we covered. And the last thing that I just want to ask you is, what is the meaning of ghayb? Remember I told you there's a difference between ghadab and ghayb. So ghadab we know is anger. What is ghayb? They are both anger actually, but ghadab is the when you speak or act on the anger, that is ghadab. So now you're in a state of being upset or angry, and now you're going to act and say things which are going to reflect your psychological state, which is that you're angry. What is the meaning of ghayb? So we said that ghayb is the very beginning stages of anger, when it is just beginning to pick up inside you. So you haven't really come into the state of anger. It's just like starting to, you could say, like brew and like it's starting to come to the surface. So that is ghayb. And as we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, wal kadhimin al ghayb. So Allah is telling you that you haven't even reached the state where now you're acting on it or speaking on it, but it's still like, you could say it's like starting to bubble inside you, and Allah says squash it right there, right? So you stop it right in that stage, in that very, very beginning stage. So that was an important point that I needed you to remember, and this is an interpretation by Imam Qurtubi. Okay, so carrying on, is everything we've said so far clear? if there's any questions, you can maybe make a note, and then we'll talk about them at the end, inshallah. Now, as you can see on the slide that I have put up in front of you, if you really think about it, anger is really directly related to the state of your iman. So the higher your state of iman, the less likely you are to either get angry or act on your anger, and the easier it is for you to control your anger. So you could say there is a direct relationship, a proportional relationship between iman and anger. And the times that you do, completely like explode and get not only get angry quickly, but there are times when you will feel that you're agitated really easily, you're just irritable, you just like snapping at little things, little things are bothering you. So these are all a sign of low iman as well. So when your iman is low, things bother you more, and things you get irritated and annoyed quicker than you would if your iman was high. So if your iman is high, anger is definitely easier for you to control. And high iman is obviously, it has all these other advantages, but it shows that you're in a state where you're closer to Allah. So a person who's closer to Allah, it's easier for him to swallow his anger, because he's more focused, and he knows what he needs to do and what he needs to continue to do to stay close to Allah. And of course, this is it's not an easy level to reach. It is a difficult level to reach, and when a person is getting angry very frequently, or little things are making them angry, this is a sign that their iman is deficient, and it is a sign that they need to work on the state of their iman. However, of course, we understand that true and complete iman is a difficult point to reach. It is not, it is not a very easy thing to do. But once you do it, you enjoy it, and you want to stay in that place. And of course, you will understand that, when we talk about somebody whose iman is high, we're talking about someone who feels very close to Allah, someone who, for them, their akhirah is almost like in front of them, right? So they are very focused, and they are not distracted by dunya, by other things. So, when you get to this stage, naturally, if you can you imagine that if you're thinking about akhirah a lot of the time, you're thinking about seeing Allah, meeting the Anbiya, you're thinking about Day of Judgment, these are the kind of things which are more or less, present in your mind most of the time. So can you imagine, little things which at the moment make us angry and upset, they will cease to, be of any importance to you, because you've got a bigger picture in front of you. So the more you are focused on your akhirah, and your iman is high, and you're close to Allah, the more these dunya things seem petty. And so it's unlikely that they will irritate you or annoy you to the point where you will, yell or scream or, get upset to that level where one would call, where one would refer to you to be in a state of anger. And really, if you think about it, that, in most cases when we do get angry, they're just trivial, very minor matters. And, because of the state of our iman, we just make these things into a big deal. But they're actually not such a big thing. Particularly, if you look at, arguments that happen between spouses, for example, between a husband and a wife. A lot of the times they will argue about something so silly. I mean, if you sit down and think about it after you've had the argument, and you think, what? I was like, I was in that state for something like this. You sit back and you think about it then, and you think, that's really silly, it's so petty. So, most of the time when we do get angry, it is really not worth it. Okay. All right. now we look at the example of the Prophet ﷺ. So 3 main things related to him. First of all, he never got angry for personal reasons, and that's why when we look at anger, it is not something which is entirely bad or wrong or forbidden. So there is a time and a place for anger, but it is not in our personal affairs. So when you look at the Prophet ﷺ's personal life, you look at the Prophet ﷺ when he interacted with his wives, when he interacted with the children around him, when he interacted with servants, and when he interacted with his army. There were people who did, who made mistakes. There were people who, did things which one would have thought, would have upset him. But you will never see anywhere where he has become angry for his own personal reasons. Even when his wives, they had some, incidents with amongst each other, of jealousy, etc. And a lot of the times he would smile through these things, so you will not find stories of him getting angry like that for personal reasons. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ, he said to Aisha radiallahu anha, and I remember reading the story as a teenager, and I absolutely loved it. And so he said to Aisha radiallahu anha, he said, I know when you are angry with me. And so she said to him, he said to her, he said, I know when you are angry with me, and I know when you are happy with me. So she said to him, she said, how do you know when I am angry with you? So he said that when you are angry with me, you say, no, by the Lord of Ibrahim. And he said, when you are happy with me, you say, no, by the Lord of Muhammad. And so she accepted that what he said was accurate and it was correct. But she said a really beautiful thing to him. She said, by Allah, O Messenger of Allah, nothing leaves me except your name. I'm just like quoting this phrase from what I remember from my teens, but you can go back and look the story up and look at the exact words. But what she's trying to say is that yes, when I'm upset, I swap your name for Ibrahim alayhi salam's name. But she's saying that's all that happens. So she's saying that in my heart, you still have the place that you have in my heart is still, what it is. But the only thing that leaves me is your name when I'm upset with you. If only, our domestics could be as simple and sweet, like, as that. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was very gentle and very, very, merciful and very, very kind with the people he was interacting with. And there was no, like I said, there was no, fights that he had for, or anger that he had for personal reasons. Again, we see with the example of Anas ibn Malik, who was, you could say, like his servant for a certain period of time. So he served him for about 10 years. And he said for 10 years he served the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ never once said to him, uff. In fact, he never asked him when he did something, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do such and such? So this is something that, the scholars are using nowadays when they're talking about, children and disciplining and parenting. There was a time when the Prophet ﷺ, he sent Anas ibn Malik to do a certain thing. And Anas ibn Malik, he was a child. So he would get distracted, he would, so once the Prophet ﷺ, he sent him to do something, and when he came back, he saw that Anas ibn Malik was playing with some children in the, outside. And so he just went and he just held him by his neck. But he did not say to him, have you done what I asked you to do? Why haven't you done it? Or, he didn't reprimand him. And this is really something for us to learn from, because, I think there is a lot left for us to learn in terms of, our dealings with children, or with our spouse, or with each other, friends, neighbors, family, etc. The Prophet ﷺ, he did get angry. It's not that he did not get angry, but he did not get angry for personal reasons. Does anybody know any examples of when the Prophet ﷺ would get angry and how it would be, or what was his anger like? Anybody know? Any incidents anybody can remember? Okay, so let me just tell you a couple of them. So this is the recorded by Bukhari and Muslim. Once he distributed some wealth, and a person said, "This distribution was not done for the sake of Allah." The Prophet ﷺ's face became red, but he ﷺ simply said, "Rahim Allahu Musa laqad udhiya bi akthara min hada fasabar." May Allah have mercy on Musa ﷺ. Verily he was harmed by more than this, and he remained patient. So, he was very general in his statements in a state of anger. Also, once, some of the companions who were suffering, they came to the Prophet ﷺ and they said to him that, when is the help of Allah going to come? And his face changed color, and he was leaning. He was leaning, I think, against the Kaaba when they came and they spoke to him, and he came out of that leaning position, and his face became red, and you could see that he had become really disturbed. And then he said to them that he advised them to be patient, and he told them that in the past there were people whose flesh was combed out of their bodies, and they were thrown in hot oil, they were sawed into half, and they were patient. So these are some of the instances where he would become angry for the sake of Allah, where he would become upset because of something related to spirituality, to deen, to his akhirah, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for personal reasons. Okay. Now, what do you do once your anger has gone? So once you have come out of the state of anger, what do you do? Now, before I talk about that, I just want to just quickly mention the last point on this slide where it says praiseworthy anger. So that would be the example that we gave of Prophet ﷺ, where he would become angry for the sake of Allah if something in the deen of Allah was being mocked or taken lightly or disobeyed, etc. So those are the kind of things that he would become angry with, and that is our example, and that is when we should feel some sense of anger. If we see that Allah's commands are being overlooked, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being disrespected, or the Prophet ﷺ is being disrespected, or somebody is mocking our deen, or mocking an aspect of deen in us, someone's laughing at your hijab, or something like that, these are valid reasons to feel upset, because this is not something personal. Now you're feeling upset because you feel that you feel Allah is being disrespected, and so you can't just stand on the side and just watch that happen. So that's a praiseworthy anger. And if in fact if your deen is being mocked, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being disrespected, and you don't feel anything in your heart, and you don't feel angry, or you don't feel disturbed or upset, that in fact is something blameworthy. So you should actually feel upset if somebody disrespects Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or his anbiya, or his signs and ayat. Okay, so what to do once the anger has gone? Now, normally when you are in a state of anger, and if you have, expressed your anger and you have acted in a state of anger, you most likely owe an apology to, whoever was, whoever witnessed your anger. And so, you would have to repair any damage caused by your anger. Remember that when you're angry, it doesn't just, it's not just limited to you and to, just to yourself. when you're angry, it actually spills out, and it affects a lot of people around you. So, let's say in the setting of a house where you have a husband, wife, children, grandparents, for example. So, if you are angry, it's going to affect your spouse, your children, your parents, and anybody else who's around you at that time. So this is something which you need to keep in mind, and then you would have to repair any harm or any damage that your anger has caused to people around you. Make dua for the person you have violated during a state of anger. So if you feel that you have really crossed the lines, then you should at least apart from apologizing, you should also make dua for them. In some cases you might want to give sadaqah for them. Maybe you really crossed the line, maybe you really crossed the boundary, and you acted completely out of order. So giving sadaqah would be a good way, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, innal hasanata yudhibna as-sayyi'at. So verily the good deeds, they wipe out or erase the bad deeds. So if you have really gone to town with your anger, so maybe you want to consider giving sadaqah on behalf of the person that you have really upset or harmed during your state of anger. And then of course finally perhaps you should consider professional help and seek some kind of anger management, because sometimes people primarily I would say you need to work on your iman and strengthen your iman. But if that is not if you feel that is not doing anything, and you have a genuine problem, then you might want to seek professional help where somebody teaches you how to manage yourself when you're in a state of anger, especially when people start becoming physically violent and aggressive, and they start behaving in a way that they like lose control. So that's when you know that you need professional help. Okay. Now, what are the harms of anger? So, as you know, anger is, although it is a natural and normal thing, but it does have it will have its repercussions. Sorry, somebody's asking, can we give them a gift? Yes, why not? If you want to follow up a bad deed with a good deed, anything pleasant would be nice. So sometimes maybe like as a parent we've lashed out on our child, and you realize, because sometimes it's almost like a what's the word I'm looking for, what I'm trying to say is that that was not your target. So let's say you're upset about something, and your child just comes in front of you, and you just take it out on them. But it's the wrong place where you're taking out your anger, because you're not really angry with your child. You're angry about something else. Something is bothering you, something is festering inside you, and you just take it out on the wrong person. And that's just a normal phenomenon where you're in a certain state, and then you'll just end up taking it out on the wrong person. So it would be nice to make up for it by making dua for them, apologizing to them, giving them a gift. Anything nice that you can do for them would be nice. Yeah. Okay, so now some of the harms of anger. When I say effects of shaitan, so obviously anger is from shaitan, right? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that shaitan, he runs in your veins, and that is what causes you to feel that anger. Now, what the shaitan does is he does not only have a psychological effect on you when he makes you feel angry, but he also has a physiological effect on you. So if you have ever seen a person who is really in a rage, who is really angry, they don't look like themselves anymore. So if you were to see them when they are normal and you see them when they're in a rage, they have a, they look different. Can anybody tell me what is different in your appearance when you're angry? And these are the effects of shaitan. Shaitan, he gets you to this point where you now start looking like a shaitan. Anybody? Any signs that you see, physical signs in somebody who's angry? Or are you all really blessed and you've never seen anyone in a rage? Very good. Facial expression, yes. So you see some really horrible, ugly, facial expressions. Very good. Become red in the face. So I have seen people's ears turn red, people's face turns red. Anything else? So I don't know if you've noticed, but you'll see some people, their veins are sticking out when they're angry. Veins on their forehead, veins in their neck. Yes, lips are pursed. I have seen people foaming in their mouth, when they're really, really angry. And eyes go red, and so these are all some of the physiological changes that you will see in a person's appearance when they are angry. So the shaitan, this is the effect of shaitan on you when you are angry. So he sets your character out of balance, because you will do things in a state of anger that you would never think of doing, under normal circumstances. And sometimes if somebody was to tell you, you said this or you did this, you swear I could not have said that, or I could not have done that, because you were in such a state that you can't even remember now the kind of things you were saying and doing. And then the shaitan has an effect on your actual physical appearance. He makes you look like that. And what I want to draw your attention to is, I told this story some time back, and I will repeat it inshallah. And it's an exercise that I think we should all do, because I think it's the most effective thing that will help you to stop flying into a rage or stop getting angry. There was this sheikh, and he said he had a really bad anger management problem. He was a very, very temperamental guy, and he would fly into a really bad rage. And he said I saw someone in a rage, I saw someone angry, and so he's just like from a distance, he's seeing, like, as a third person, he's just seeing somebody who's like really angry, and they're like acting in that state of anger. And he said it looked so hideous. He said it looked so ugly. He said, I think he said that was the last time. He said that after that, it was like, he stopped having his anger issues after that. I think every time he would become angry, he would think of, what he had seen, and that would really put him off. So he would just like control himself. But what I was saying is that, I think sometimes it's an idea for us to, have a picture taken, or have one of the kids video us while we're in a state of really, bad anger, and see how horrible and how ugly it looks, how shaitanic it looks. And that will be enough to put you off from ever becoming angry again. You don't want to look like that. You don't want to, be remembered like that. And you don't want to think that I'm capable of saying these things or behaving this way. So, that's an exercise I think that we should all do. Maybe we should get one of our kids to, secretly video us or picture us when we're in a state of anger. And, that will be the best anger management therapy that you would have ever got. The next point is... sorry, let me just see. I haven't left anything. Okay, so the next point is that the best of this dunya and akhirah can only be achieved by controlling your anger. So anger really gets in the way of a lot of your achievements, a lot of your milestones. You want to get to a certain level in your iman, in your spirituality, and anger, it just comes and it interferes with all of that. It interferes with your growth. Literally, it interferes with your growth, Because if you spend a lot of time just being angry, naturally you are not going to be making much progress in terms of growth, in terms of growing spiritually or personality wise. So that's one thing. The other thing to think about is especially for people who are not married, and they wonder that when I'm married, will my marriage work out? Am I going to be a good spouse? Is my husband or my wife going to be really happy with me, etc.? This is the time to ask yourself, look at your behavior at home, look at your behavior with your parents, with your siblings, with your roommate, with your colleagues at work, in school, at university, wherever you are in life. And ask yourself, are you someone who listens? Are you someone who complies with rules? Are you kind? Do you fulfill people's requests? Do you clean up after yourself? How do you behave when you get into an argument? How do you behave if somebody upsets you? Are you stingy? Are you generous? Are you helpful? What kind of spouse or mother or sister or daughter are you? These are all things that we need to ask ourselves. And if the people who are living with you today are frustrated with you, then most likely your spouse will be frustrated with you, your kids will be frustrated with you, your extended family, friends, people will eventually, especially people who spend a lot of time with you, they will get frustrated with you, because that is who you are. And so that is really a good sort of like reality check, to see what your behavior is like. And if you look at all the the destructive things that affect our personality or that affect our relationships, there's two main things. One is a person's anger, and the other is a person's desire. So when I say destructive, of course these are natural desires that Allah has put in us. Allah created us with these emotions, but the time that they become destructive is when we misuse them and when we don't use them correctly. And that's the case with both anger and desire. And if we can use these two emotions correctly, then inshallah that will bring us success rather than disaster. Okay, so the next point is the manifested through. So now anger is, as you know, there are three ways in which anger will manifest itself in us. So one is internally or emotionally. And if you remember last time, I spoke about hiqd, which is like hatred. So what happens is that when you're angry with someone, and if you stay angry and you let that anger take root in your heart, it results in hatred. So for example, imagine that you are a teenager and your parents have taken away your smartphone and they've given you a brick Nokia, okay? And they said, that's it, you're spending too much time on the screen, and this is what we've decided to do. Now, as a teenager, naturally you will be extremely angry. This is not exactly how you were planning to spend your next few years of your teens, right? With this Nokia, which is an eyesore to even look at. So if you don't control your anger and you don't understand or discuss with your parents or sit down with them and come to a mutual agreement or understanding about this issue, and you just become angry, what happens is that this anger actually goes inside and it changes into hatred for your parents. So you actually start to hate your parents, and you will see a lot of teenagers, they say these things, and we think that no one can hate their parents, but there are people who they have so much anger built up, so much frustration built up, it actually changes into hatred, and then they don't care about what makes their parents happy, what makes them upset, whether it's going to affect their health, whether it's going to affect their finances, the next thing for example, the toilet flush isn't working, or you'll see someone's chipped the paint off the wall, or someone's broken the skirting, or you'll find this Nokia, it's lying smashed on the floor. So what you end up doing is you end up acting on that anger, but it's based on what is going on inside you. So that anger has changed into hatred, and now out of hatred you are doing the worst damage that you can. So you see, now you're not even thinking correctly, you're not focusing on the issue. Now you've become you're focusing on the person, and you just have hatred spewing out of you for them. And this is something very unhealthy. This is something very ineffective, and it does not really achieve anything or bring any results. So this hiqd is something very, very important to avoid. That's why, if for nothing else, right, for that reason, you should try and get rid of your anger in the initial stages. Because like I said, once this hiqd sits in your heart, now it gradually goes to hatred, and then jealousy, and other kind of things, where now the problem is not just between you and the person that you're angry with, but now it becomes something between you and Allah. And now now this is going to start affecting your akhirah. So that's why this is something that you must try and avoid. The other way that you would express your anger is in words. And that's why we said that when a person is angry, they should keep silent. Because when you speak in a state of anger, you can imagine that you will be, spewing out things that you would, maybe under normal circumstances, you would never think that you're capable of saying those things. But in the state of anger, you will end up saying things which will shock you. If somebody was to repeat to you what you said when you were angry, you will be surprised. So people say nasty, hurtful statements, and like I said, this causes a lot of damage, so it's better to keep quiet. And then the last thing is actions. So like I said, somebody's angry, you'll go and scratch someone's car, you will damage someone's property, you will punch someone, push someone, throw things around, bang doors. These are the kind of things that you end up doing when you're acting in a state of anger. Okay. Now, the thing is that this is such a vast topic, but because of the limitation of time, and I just wanted to, just touch on some key points. So I decided to select the story of Ali radiallahu anhu and Fatima radiallahu anha. And I thought that this was a really good story to illustrate some basic points, and this is mainly to obviously do with the spouse relationship, but you can apply these points across the board with other situations as well. So I'm just going to quickly tell you the story, and then we'll move on inshallah and cover some of these points. So one day the Prophet ﷺ, let me just pull it out so that I'm telling you the accurate words of the story, if I can find them. Anyway, so I'm just going to carry on speaking. So one day the Prophet ﷺ, he went to visit Fatima radiallahu anha, and it was like in the afternoon time, what you would call like a siesta. And most people are indoors at that time because the sun is out, it's very hot, and it's not really a time where people want to be hanging around outside. And so he went into her hujra, and he greeted her, and he realized Ali radiallahu anhu is not at home. So he asked her, he said, where is Ali? And she was very open and straight with him, and she said to him, we had a bit of a dispute, and he got upset and he left. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, he said to I think one of the Sahaba who's narrating this story, this incident, I think it was Sa'ad radiallahu anhu. He said to him, he said, where is Ali? He said, go and look for Ali. Where has he gone? And so, a couple of them, they went out to look for Ali radiallahu anhu. And the Prophet ﷺ, I think he was looking for him as well. And then they were asking around, that has anybody seen him in the marketplace? Has anybody seen him here or there? They didn't know where he was. And then one of the people, they said that, oh yeah, I saw him in the masjid. So the Prophet ﷺ heads towards the masjid, and he sees and he finds Ali radiallahu anhu. And what is Ali radiallahu anhu doing? He's taking a nap. He's sleeping on the masjid floor. And as you know, the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, obviously it did not have anything on the base, on the floor. So it was just, fresh soil, you could say, on the floor of the masjid. And so because he's lying down on the floor, the sand was, it got onto his forehead. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he goes in and he sees Ali radiallahu anhu lying down, and he says, "Qum ya Aba Turab, qum." And this becomes, one of his most favorite, or it's like his pet laqab. He's known as Aba Turab because the Prophet ﷺ referred to him as Aba Turab. And in this you also see the love between Ali radiallahu anhu and the Prophet ﷺ, because normally, if your father-in-law or your mother-in-law is upset with you and she calls you, silly face or some silly name like that, this is not something you enjoy listening to, or it's not something that you would want to remember. But this name Aba Turab is something that Ali radiallahu anhu, he used to feel happy to be referred to as Aba Turab or Abu Turab. Abu Turab basically means a father of dust. So because he's lying on the floor and the dust had got onto him, the Prophet ﷺ, he lightheartedly, he referred to him like that, and he brings him back, to his wife. Now, some of the lessons that we learn from this story, well, first of all, you see that the Prophet ﷺ, he does get involved with Fatima radiallahu anha's, personal problem, in the sense that, he sees that there's been a dispute and he tries to bring them back together. And there's nothing wrong with that as parents, if we try and do that for our children, if we feel that they need that from us. Of course, I'm not referring to unnecessary interference or excessive interference, but now and again when it's needed, it's okay. So the first thing we see is that the time that you are having an argument with your spouse, or we can even take this, between a mother and a child, that is not the time to reason and reconcile, because at that time emotions are running high, everybody is not necessarily in the best state of mind, and people are at a bit of heightened like anxiety or heightened emotions, and that's not really the time to reason with someone, or to try and state facts, or say things as they are, because it's not really going to work at that time. People are not really thinking straight. So the best thing to do at that time is to stop arguing and to just get away from that situation. So if you are in a room where you are having the argument, it's an idea to leave that room and go into another room. If you are in a place where you can't really go into another room because there are other people in the house or something like that, leave the house, go for a walk, go and buy yourself a drink, get some fresh air, anything to get you away from the situation, because the longer you stay in that situation while you are in that state of mind, you are not going to achieve anything. If anything, you will cause a lot of damage, and then that damage will be very difficult to fix later on. So that's the first thing. That's not the time to reconcile and reason. It's the time to get away from the situation. What does Ali radiallahu anhu do? He sleeps on it. He just takes a nap. And sleep is a really good it's a really good, sort of like a detour from everything, and it's a very healing kind of thing to do. It's, sometimes, for example, if let's say you're memorizing Quran and you're really struggling, and you feel that, this is just not going into my head and I'm just really struggling, you're getting anxious, you're getting stressed, you're getting, into a state now. One of the things that you could consider doing, apart from, making istighfar and making dua, is just to take a nap. Just lie down for a little while, exactly like one of you is saying, that it's a very calming thing. It just helps to calm you down, it helps to calm your nerves, it helps to soothe your mind, and it refreshes you, right? Sleep refreshes you, so when you wake up, you feel like now you're in a better state to handle the situation, and now you feel that your mind is also in a better state to deal with the situation or to approach the situation. And the other thing that Ali radiallahu anhu achieves by sleeping for a little while is he changes his state, right? So maybe he was standing or sitting when he was with his wife, and now he's come here and he's changed his position completely. He's laid down, and it's difficult for the shaitan to provoke you when you are in a lying down position. So it's a good position to take when you feel, I'm getting really angry now, your children have done the worst crime that you could have thought of. Now is the time for you to just get away and just lie down and just wait for that state to leave you before you go and address the issue. The next thing that we learn from this is that we should focus on the issue, not the person. So a lot of the times when we are angry and we're having this thing between yourself and another person, whoever it might be, your spouse, your child, your in-laws, your friends, your neighbors, whoever, try to take the focus away from the person and focus on the situation or on the issue. One of the things that helps you to do, one of the things that helps with, is to avoid hiqd, because now your anger is not focused on the person for whom you can feel hatred, but it's focused on the issue. So if you were to feel hatred for that issue, that's okay. That's not going to grow and brew into something like jealousy or something like that, because you hate the issue that happened, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Whenever you have anything between yourself and anyone, just make sure that you focus on the issue, and don't become angry with the person or start hating the person, but try and tell yourself that we need to fix this issue. Ali radiallahu anhu, he was known for controlling his anger, and so he does it very, very beautifully in this situation with his own wife. Another example I want to give you is once he was in the situation of a battle, and what happens is he gets his opponent and he captures him, he floors him, he sits on top of him, and he draws his sword out. And just as he's about to strike this man, the man spat at his face. He spits on him. As soon as he spat on his face, Ali radiallahu anhu, he put his sword back in its place, he stood up, and he walked away. His opponent was really confused, because you would think that once I've spat on him, now he's gonna slice me to smithereens, right? Because I've really provoked him now. Imagine somebody spitting on you, right? So he asked, I think he asked Ali radiallahu anhu that, why didn't you proceed to kill me? You're about to kill me. You're about to finish me off. And Ali radiallahu anhu, he gives a very beautiful answer. He said, when I started fighting with you, and when I first drew my sword out, He said, I was fighting with you as an enemy of Allah, as an enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as an enemy of Islam. And I was fighting you for that sake. I was fighting you for the sake of Allah. But he said, when you spat on me, he said it became a personal thing. And he said, I did not want to be responsible for acting on my anger and doing something for a personal reason. So he said, that's why I put my sword back and I refused to continue to engage with you anymore. Because now he felt that now I'm not doing it for Allah, I'm doing it for my personal anger or personal reasons, or because he's personally, attacked me. So always remember, when you are in a situation where you're angry or you're upset or you're trying to tackle an issue, always ask yourself, that is this personal, or is this something which which has a more noble end, or a noble goal. Of course, if you're oppressed or somebody's taking your rights, these are all valid reasons for you to be upset. Okay. The other point that I have added to this list is, whenever there is a problem between you and anybody, in any situation, always ask yourself first, how did I contribute to this problem? It's the easiest thing for us to do is to point fingers on other people and to talk about how the other person started the problem and how the fault lies in the other person's domain. So step back from that attitude and ask yourself that it takes two to tango. So if I'm in this situation, I must have done something to contribute to it. It's not like you were sitting and sipping tea and somebody came and just started attacking you and fighting with you. So perhaps you did something and they did something and then the problem started. So always ask yourself how you contributed to the problem and try and fix that, try and address that before you carry on with attacking the other person or finding his faults. And of course, in the state of anger, it's very good to make this dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make. أسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب. So the Prophet ﷺ used to make this dua, which means, I ask you for truthful speech during times of pleasure and anger. Because when you're angry, it's one of the things is you're not thinking straight, and the other thing is that you're very emotionally high strung right now. So right now you're not really focusing on honesty and being upright, and if you were focusing on being upright, you would not be in that state, right? But when you're in that state now, to defend yourself and to stand up for whatever you have decided to pick this fight for, you will come up with lies and you'll make things up or whatever comes in your mind to support your side. So that's why it's good to make this dua and ask Allah that He keeps you firm and He keeps you on the truth, whether you are in a good state or in a bad state. So all the time we want to be truthful and we want to be on the haqq, on the truth. The effects of anger spread beyond you. I mentioned that to you earlier on, that when you're angry, it doesn't just affect you, it does spread around. It has a domino effect and it will affect other people, which is why yet another reason for you to try and withhold your anger. And the last point on this slide, that the shaitan, he stunts your spiritual growth by corrupting you with anger. So like we said, there's a direct relationship between anger and iman. So let's say you're trying to do good things, you're trying to increase in khair, and you're trying to recite more Quran, be more honest, be nice to people, and then this anger comes and you literally feel hurtling down a few steps of iman, literally. You feel that it took me so much time and effort to get to the 3rd floor, and now I went into this rage, I had this huge anger attack or whatever, I got really angry, and now I'm back to the 1st floor, and now I have to climb all the way up again. So this is Shaitan's favorite thing to do, because he doesn't want you to get close to Allah. He doesn't want you to be amongst Allah's beloved slaves. He doesn't want you to have high iman. His job is to try and get you to be angry, and once you're angry, you lose strength, you lose iman, you lose nearness to Allah, you lose a lot of things. So that's how Shaitan, that's one of his tricks, to try and get the better of you by making you angry. So some general points that I wanted to mention about the hadith. The first point is that this hadith shows us, this Sahabi, he comes and he asks the Prophet ﷺ that advise me. It shows us that the Sahaba, they're very keen and eager to learn, and I mentioned this last time as well. When you are amongst righteous people of knowledge, people who you look up to, it's always an idea to ask them questions, to try and learn from them, to try and ask them to advise you, to try and improve yourself, because that's an opportunity, and you should use that opportunity, because it doesn't come by very often. So when you are with somebody who you trust and you love and you look up to, it's always a good thing to ask them that, can you advise me? It shows that you are eager to try and improve yourself, to try and better yourself, to try and that you acknowledge, that you have weaknesses, you have areas that you need to improve and you need to change. So that's the first thing. So don't just ask when there is a need. Okay, so like for example, normally we will ask a question when there is a need, right? Like for example, let's say I'm confused about something to do with my fasting, so I'm going to ask a question about the fasting, or I'm confused about some food that I want to eat. I'm not sure, is it okay to eat that or not, so I'm going to ask a question about that. So those are things we ask when there is a need, but ask even when there is not a need, so ask for advice, ask for what is the best action, what are the ways I can come close to Allah, what are the things I can do so that Allah loves me, what are the things I can do so that I can be special in the sight of Allah. So these are all things that you need to think about, and these are all things that you should ask, and you should be curious to find the answer to. Things where there isn't a situation where you need to ask a question, but you're asking this for to get better, to improve yourself. The next thing is the statement of Hasan al-Basri. He said a very profound statement, and I just want to try and quickly go through that, inshallah. He said, there are 4 characteristics that if one possesses them, Allah protects him from Satan and forbids him from the fire. So once again, there are 4 characteristics that if one possesses them, Allah protects him from Satan and forbids him from the fire. So you get 2 things if you possess any of these 4 characteristics, or all of them. You get protection from Shaitan, and you get protection from the hellfire. What are these 4 characteristics? These 4 are found in the one who controls himself while in a state of craving, fearing, desiring or lusting, and being angry. So a person who can control these 4 emotions and stay in control when he feels these emotions, these are the people who, inshallah, Allah will protect them from Shaitan and from the hellfire. And Ibn Rajab said that these 4 are the path to every evil. So just to briefly explain to you, what is craving? So craving is a very strong inclination to do something. Okay, it's a very strong desire to do something. It's almost like an overtly attachment that you can have to something. So let's say, for example, a person he's craving to buy this car, okay, and he's got his eyes and his heart is set on this car, and he just wants to find a way to get this car. And every day he goes to the car showroom, he stands outside and he just looks at this car, and then he goes back, and then the next day he comes and again he just looks at the car, and so it's like this it's like a really strong kind of thing inside him that he wants this. Now you see, if he doesn't control this, he will start thinking of criminal ways of trying to get this car, because he can't think of a straight way to get it. So he's now going to start thinking about stealing, about breaking in, about maybe stealing money to buy the car. He's going to start thinking about haram means of achieving that thing, because that drive inside him is so strong, that inclination to get this thing, to obtain this thing, is so strong. The next thing is fearing. Again, fear is something which can cause you to do haram. Let's imagine that you work at a school, okay, and you're a teacher, and this job is very important. This job pays your electricity bills, it pays your rent, it puts food on the table. You need this job, okay? And the headmistress comes to you and she says, here is a list of exam marks, and I need you to change all of them. Now, what's going to happen? You're going to think, if I don't change these marks, I'm going to definitely lose my job, right? Because you're not going to comply with the principal's wishes. But at the same time, you're thinking that if I don't go with her wishes and I lose my job, I'm going to be out of money and out of pocket and out of a job. So now you have this fear of losing this job, and you really need to keep this job. So that fear can cause you to now cheat and lie and do what the principal is telling you to do. Whereas if you don't have that level of fear, you will think, stuff it, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to get involved in any kind of incorrect, inappropriate, behavior. And, you'll just give it back to her and say, you can change it. I'm not changing it. Even if she has to fire you, so be it. Right? So I'm just trying to explain to you how fear can cause you to, sin, because you're so eager and so scared of that particular thing. Like, you're scared to lose this job, so you can swerve and you can sin. Desiring and lusting, this is shahwa, right? So imagine a man, he's married and he has a family, he has wife, children, and he meets this woman somewhere at his workplace, for example, and now he starts to have a very strong desire towards her. Now that desire is pulling him and telling him to do something haram. But if he can control that desire, then inshallah he will save himself. And he will save himself from shaitan, and he will save himself from the hellfire. But if he gives in to this desire and he goes and he fulfills his shahwa and he commits zina, whatever he has to do, then he would have lost the battle. And the last one is being angry. So again, controlling your anger, it will lead to a lot of good. And giving in to your anger and acting on your anger, it will lead to a lot of evil. The psychological perspective, as we know, that anger is a natural emotion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created inside us. We get angry, we feel angry. This is a normal emotion. It's not an abnormal thing for us to feel angry. And medically or scientifically speaking, it's a it's something that it enables your body to behave in a certain way that your body could not do if it was not in that state of anger. So when you feel threatened, when you feel that you're in danger, when somebody attacks you and you feel angry, that's the time when all of us have been in a state of anger. You do get a bit of additional strength that you don't have when you're not angry. That's why when you're fasting, it's very unlikely for you to be angry, because you don't have that strength, that power, but when you are like fat and happy, it's easier for you to reach that state, and that extra additional action, you could say, or defense. It's like a defense mechanism, you could say. But that's only when it's used, correctly, and it's used in the right place and in the right manner, and not incorrectly. Okay, so you don't want to harm somebody with your anger, but you want to protect yourself, so that it's okay to use your anger for that. And the last thing is there are different narrations. For example, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said that if you really want to know someone, then study them when they are angry. I think there was another Sahabi as well who said the same thing. So, when you say that, I want to see what this person is really like. So, for example, Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said that if you want to really know a person, you should see them when they're angry, deal with them in money matters, travel with them, or live with them. So these are the 4 main times that you see a person's true colors, their true character. Naturally, when you meet somebody for a little while outside, or for tea, for dinner, and naturally everybody's going to be on their best behavior, right? But ask your family, ask your spouse, ask your children, what am I really like? What is my good side? What is my bad side? Because they are the people who see the true you. The people you live with, the people who see you in your state of anger, the people you travel with, the people you deal with, in money matters. So these are the times when your true characteristics, your true personality comes out. Because, like I said, when you're angry, it's almost like there's like this, like a veil on your mind, and you're not really thinking straight, or you're not really, you're not. You lose that focus. You're not really yourself. So that shows you your self. Okay, this is the last thing that I wanted to do with you, and this is a part of a very long hadith, but I'm just going to read the last part, and you need to ask yourself where you fall in this category. So there's a very long hadith which is narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. I will try and post this hadith on the group so you can read the whole thing, but I will just tell you the part that I wanted to discuss with you. This hadith mentions 4 types of anger, and you need to ask yourself, which one you fit into. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Behold, among them is the slow to get angry, the quick to calm. Among them is the quick anger and the quick to calm. So this is with that. Behold, among them is the quick to get angry and the slow to calm, and indeed the best of them is the slow to get angry and the quick to calm. And the worst of them is the quick to get angry and the slow to calm." So that might sound like a bit difficult to follow the way it's worded there, but that's why I've broken it down for you. So there are 4 types of anger situations that you can be in. There are people who it takes them a very long time to get angry, so you really have to push all the wrong buttons before they get angry and they get into the state, and they're very quick to calm down. And once they are angry, they can immediately just come out of that state of anger and go back to being normal. Then there are people who it's very easy to you just need to press one wrong button and that's it, the job's done, right? So they're very quick to get angry, and but then the good thing is that they're also quick to calm down, so they calm down very quickly. Then you have those who get angry very quickly, but they take a very long time to calm down, so they brood and they will stay in that state maybe for a few days until they can calm down. And then there are those who are slow to get angry, so it takes a long time for them to reach that state where now they you could say that they're angry, but they're very quick to calm down. So now we've got 4 different combinations. So you need to ask yourself which one you fit into, and I want you to tell me which one do you think is the best one and which one do you think is the worst one? Anybody? You can just write the number. You can just write 1, 2, or 3. You don't have to write the whole thing down. Which combination do you think is the best? Okay, so somebody said 1 is best and 4 is worst. Slow to get angry, quick to calm. And 4 is slow to get angry and slow to calm. Okay, so the best one is slow to get angry and quick to calm. That's correct. Which is the worst one? It's not 4. Yes, 3 is worst. Quick to get angry and slow to calm. So we just need to make sure that we're not the worst category, and we need to try and all of us need to try and fit into the first category, and even better than that, we need to try and improve our akhlaq, try to be more patient, calm, gentle, forgiving, forbearing, and we just need to try to incorporate some of these qualities within ourselves, so that we don't reach that level where we're getting angry. So with that, we've come to the end of this dars, and I hope inshallah it was of benefit, and I hope inshallah that you will all be making a video or a picture of yourself when you're really angry, so that it prevents you from getting angry ever again. And I hope that inshallah this has provided some insight into even relationships between spouses, and how to deal with the situation, and how to be the most sensible way to move forward in any relationship, whether it's mother and child, or whether it's a spouse or friends or whatever. And if there's any questions, then please feel free to ask. Otherwise, you're welcome to leave. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Okay, so one of the sisters has already had a video made of her, so that must be pretty putting off and pretty horrific. You can imagine. I mean, sometimes you see your children imitating you and reflecting your behaviors and your statements, and it's really scary and horrible to see that when you see them behaving in this way, and you can see yourself in them, and you think, astaghfirullah, is this what I look like, and is this what I'm doing, and is this what my kids are learning? So when you're very, very angry, if you can say inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, or a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, change your position, make wudu, remember Allah, do these kind of things. And if you start seeing your kids doing that and emanating those actions, then at least you feel, okay, alhamdulillah, so I must be doing the right things if my kids are also, they're handling anger pretty well. So, these are just things for us to reflect on and think about. Alright, so inshallah, look forward to seeing you all next week, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.